People with borderline personality disorder have an overwhelming fear of abandonment, which can lead to behaviors that are excessively needy and clingy. And this neediness acts as a subconscious defense mechanism to avoid abandonment. And it stems from deeper feelings of emptiness, shame, insecurity, an unstable sense of self, and emotional dysregulation. This neediness can be expressed in a lot of different ways. So it can be dramatic cries for attention, excessive demands for reassurance and validation, or testing and sabotaging the relationship. And all of this can feel extremely manipulative and controlling to their favorite person, which in many cases is their partner. I'm Lise Leblanc, therapist, author, and life coach, and today I am talking about 5 ways that this intense neediness creates a sense of fear, obligation, guilt, and pressure on you as a partner that paradoxically often contributes to the very abandonment that the person with BPD is trying to avoid. Before we jump in, let me just say that not everyone with BPD will do all of these things that I'm going to talk about. And it's also important to note that these patterns of neediness, clinginess, and intense fear of abandonment can also be seen in people with other personality disorders or attachment disorders. Okay, so the first thing you might experience as a partner or favorite person is emotional overload. So when the person with BPD is excessively clingy or needy, at first it can be flattering and you might like being needed in these ways. It might make you feel worthy, like you have a purpose in life. You're put on a pedestal and you're like the only person who understands them, who can be trusted, and you might feel like you can save them and that all they need is your unconditional love and support. But what you will find over time is that the more support and love you give, the more they fear losing it and the more they cling to it and to you. The demands become more insatiable and no amount of reassurance seems to be able to fill that void. Instead of lifting them up, you end up sinking with them, dragged down by the weight of their constant emotional needs. For the person with BPD, being tethered to you is like their emotional lifeline, like a ship desperately clinging to an anchor in the middle of a storm. And you just can't provide the stability they need, and you end up getting swept up into that storm. So after a while, as much as you may want to provide that love, support, and stability, you start to feel emotionally exhausted, overloaded, and overwhelmed. And you might feel like you're being smothered or suffocated by your partner's neediness. And this can lead you to try to set boundaries or to assert your need for some space and some time to yourself to recharge your batteries. But you will quickly learn that this only makes matters worse, as the person with BPD perceives your request for time or your boundaries as abandonment. So instead of giving you a short temporary break, their neediness goes into overdrive. And so you end up dealing with their crisis that you kind of just created by expressing your needs. So you find yourself feeling frustrated, resentful, and you might even get emotionally distant. You might start avoiding certain conversations or maybe even lying to your partner when you need time to yourself because you don't want to trigger that crisis. So this becomes a vicious cycle, and it is a real catch-22. Number 2 is feeling controlled and isolated. So any perceived threat of abandonment can show up as extreme jealousy, possessiveness, and intrusive behaviors. So your partner with BPD might constantly call or text, needing to know what you're doing, who you're with, when you'll be back, and they might sometimes go off on you, accusing you of flirting with someone else or cheating on them, when in reality your interactions are purely platonic and completely appropriate. So again, I'm not talking about a normal reaction to a real threat to your relationship here. What they are reacting to and the intensity of their emotional reaction goes way beyond what would be considered normal or reasonable in a relationship. Their constant neediness of your time and attention, although rooted in insecurity and fear, can feel extremely controlling. You might feel like you're not allowed to even look or talk to anyone without triggering their intense anxiety and fears of abandonment. So in time, you start avoiding friends, family, social activities, because any attention you give to someone else or you get from someone else, no matter how innocent, can set them off. So you start feeling like you're walking around with horse blinders on, deliberately trying to not look at anyone or make eye contact because the only person you feel like you're allowed to look at or talk to is your partner. So you can't be yourself. And as time goes on, you feel like you have no control over your time, attention, and energy. The person with BPD needs you to be focused on them at all times in order to feel secure. And so you start walking on eggshells, trying to avoid triggering them. And there's a lot of pressure in that, which can make you feel trapped, controlled, or maybe even like a possession. This can lead to an overwhelming need to assert yourself and take your power back, which of course is also interpreted by the person with BPD as abandonment, causing them to cling even harder and intensifies their neediness and their controlling behaviors. Number 3 is feeling manipulated and obligated. So in moments of intense emotional distress, a person with BPD might engage in impulsive and destructive behaviors. This could include things like self-harm, substance use, infidelity, or even suicide attempts. These impulsive actions are often accompanied by clinginess and a profound need for immediate reassurance, which can come across as manipulative. And it can also be deeply distressing for you as a partner because it feels like emotional blackmail. You're forced to provide attention, validation, and reassurance to de-escalate their crisis, or else God knows what might happen if you don't respond right now. And this obviously creates a huge burden and sense of obligation because no matter what's going on in your life, you have to deal with this now. So while you might genuinely want to help and support them in their frequent times of need, the intensity of these behaviors can put so much pressure on you because it feels like their safety is resting solely on your shoulders. So the fear of making mistakes and failing, not saying the right thing or doing the right thing, and the potential consequences of that if something goes wrong can lead to overwhelming feelings of guilt and duty. Ironically, these extreme impulsive and destructive actions intended to stop abandonment actually often end up sabotaging the relationship and causing you as a partner to feel obligated and emotionally unsafe, which can lead you to want to distance yourself from them, reinforcing the cycle of neediness and the fears of abandonment. Number 4 is the feeling of instability. People with BPD experience intense emotional fluctuations. So 1 minute they're happy, in love, everything is fine. But in the next moment, they can spiral into a shame storm, feeling insecure, anxious, or angry. And this emotional volatility can make you, as their partner or favorite person, feel like you're on a ginormous emotional roller coaster ride, never knowing what to expect next. At first, the ride might seem exciting, but after you're on it for a while, it does get exhausting. And it's extremely exhausting for the person with BPD who can't get off this ride. Imagine being involuntarily strapped into the biggest, fastest roller coaster ride. You're feeling sick, dizzy, scared, and you just want to get off, but you can't. And in those moments when the ride slows down a bit and you just start to feel better, boom, the ride picks up speed again and it gets wild. And the person with BPD sees you as their seatbelt in a way, the thing that's keeping them safe and secure so that they don't fly off the rails when their emotions take over. But the more you try to provide that emotional safety and security, the more they depend on you for it and the tighter they cling, afraid that if they let you go, they'll spiral completely out of control. Number 5 is the hurt and betrayal that you'll experience. So one paradoxical behavior that often happens with people with borderline personality disorder is the tendency to test the relationship when they fear abandonment. And this can look like pushing you away, starting fights, creating emotional drama, or even cheating. And sometimes they're just seeing how far they can push you before you'll leave. And at its core, this is a way of seeking reassurance, testing the depth of your commitment, seeing if you will fight for the relationship. Other times it's their deep-rooted shame that takes over. And so they might sabotage the relationship, pull away from you, hurt you, just to prove to themselves that they're unworthy of love and reinforcing their belief that they will eventually be abandoned. They might as well just have control over the process. And this self-sabotage can create a cycle where just as things seem to be stabilizing, their fear and shame takes over, driving them to test the relationship over and over again. And that, again, it leads to the very abandonment that they fear sometimes. So the more they push and test you, the more they're trying to get your reassurance and validation. But this often backfires because you end up feeling confused and hurt by the sudden withdrawal or emotional upheaval. And you might start to feel like you need to protect yourself. You may feel really betrayed because you've done so much and given up so much of yourself to help this person. And then they do something to hurt you or to damage the relationship. It really is a tragic paradox because the extreme needy behaviors of the person with BPD aimed at keeping you close often end up pushing you away even though you truly love that person and really want to be with them. You end up feeling like you have to leave to save your own sanity. The good news here is that therapy, especially dialectical behavior therapy, can be very effective in helping people with BPD learn to regulate their emotions and use healthier coping strategies, better ways to communicate and get their needs met so that they can experience more stable and fulfilling relationships. But it's intense, it takes a while, and it can be really helpful if you, as the partner, is also willing to engage in therapy. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and to learn more about borderline personality disorder, please click on the link above.